So today, it's my pleasure to introduce another fellow colleague, Jason Daiger, who is VP of Products at Momentive. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, Rob. It's great to be here.
I think I remember from your background that you spent a long time in a company by the name of Attendee Interactive. Tell us a little bit about that, and maybe that kind of feeds you into Momentive.
Yeah, so my professional background story, I actually started my first professional day and went down to Washington, D.C. into the back of an exhibit hall to work and support lead capture. So I like to say I grew up in this industry. And after about 5 years of working with that company, I decided to venture out on my own as an entrepreneur and join my two other colleagues and business partners, and we formed Attendee Interactive, which really is all about educational content management, submissions, abstract submissions, speaker management. We do a lot of logistical solutions there. As a small business, we did a lot of things for many years. We had a really strong run over 17 years before we were acquired. And then since acquisition, I'm an R&D. I was a software developer, first one in, built all the platform, but as a small business, you do everything. So you do marketing and you do sales and you work exhibit booths and you really get exposed to everything. And so I've been able to take that experience and translate it both in R&D roles since acquisition and now in my current role as product.
It sounds like our careers started very similarly because one of my first roles in the industry was the National Association of Broadcasters, and they
Hmm.
ran some very large trade shows. And so very early on when I started there, they sent me to one of their shows because, as when you're on the tech side of the shows, you have to go out a few days early. Well,
Yep.
we get out there early, we get everything set up, the show's getting ready to start, and then I ate something bad that evening, and I was in my hotel room for like the next 4 days and missed the whole show. So that was my introduction to trade shows.
Uh, you and I probably crossed paths because NAB was one of the early shows that I went and worked out in Las Vegas. And unfortunately, I had a somewhat similar experience, but it only knocked me down for, half a day versus the whole show.
That was not one of my great memories, but anyway. So I also understand that you also do work for other nonprofits. That sounds quite interesting.
Yeah, I do. So I live in Frederick, Maryland. In downtown Frederick, Maryland, there's a place called Carroll Creek Linear Park. And after it was created, they really had they struggled because there was a lot of water quality issues because it was a stormwater kind of remediation project to prevent flooding. And so, a gentleman got a bunch of organizations together and created what's called Color on the Creek. And it's a nonprofit that we plant over 400 tropical plants in the creek every year. And we've got a lot of annual plants. There's lotus and there's lilies. And so part of that nonprofit effort is what I've been involved with now about 7 or 8 years, kind of going on 8 years, and much more of a leadership role. But what's really interesting, Rob, is in the winter time, we change that creek. So in the summertime, it's beautiful flowers with bright purple and blues and reds that are out there in these really large canna. So, fun fact, it's actually the world's largest planted tropical water garden that is totally free. So there's no cost. If anybody's in the area, just come on up. It's a beautiful time of year, especially right now. Things are finishing in bloom. But the other really interesting thing that we do is in the wintertime, we transform. Basically, it's roughly a quarter mile, about that. We've transformed that downtown creek area into a floating fleet of really artistically designed boats. And
Oh,
each boat
cool.
represents its own charity. And as part of that, we are a Momentive customer. We use the Give Smart Events platform to be able to raise funds. So each boat represents a unique charity, local charity. And we set sail from November, the weekend before Thanksgiving, all the way into March. And last year, we raised over $140,000 for local charities. So not only do I work for Momentive, I'm an advocate for it because I'm also a customer.
That's amazing. So are we taking good care of you?
Absolutely. The team does a great job of making sure I get what I need.
I can imagine so. So speaking of momentum, um, you, as I said at the very beginning, have a big part in our event strategy. And so I'm kind of curious, we got a lot of things going on there. So maybe
Yep.
you can give us a little insight into that.
Yeah, we're really excited about what we're doing on the event side of the house. So events is really comprised of let's call it 5 different business units that provide different functionality from mobile event apps, as I'll kind of generally call them. We've got our event registration, our badging and check-in, our lead capture solutions. We also have the conference management and planning solution. And so, we've got a really strong two-pronged approach where we're reinvesting in our conference management and our event app solutions, and we're going to be combining those together into really strong product offering that will connect in directly into our Momentive platform, which will really be a difference maker for that particular solution, and being able to provide event apps and ultimately do a lot of additional analysis about attendee engagement. And at the same time, on our registration front, which is another area where we're providing a lot of significant investment, updating our registration platform technology in order to be able to take it to a broader scale and a broader market space. We'll be improving our, on-site solution offerings over time, and in and around the technology and the hardware, and the really impacting the way we deliver our services. And what's really most exciting is that connected feature back to through the platform. And one of our differentiators that Momentive brings is going to be that ability, because we will allow our AMS customers to be able to more directly integrate the data that they're capturing in their registration solutions, where today they rely on a lot of third parties to be able to do that. And we're going to be able to take that data in-house and be able to offer a solution that really will ultimately be unmatched in the market from a single source provider.
Yeah, so in some past videos that I've done, I've talked about this platform, and we're calling it the Data Hub, which allows us to connect all these solutions together. And some of our listeners who might be using an AMS might think, well, doesn't the AMS already do a lot of those things? And the answer is yes, there are certainly overlaps. But when we think about our event stack, we certainly take things to a whole nother level. When you think about on-site registration and badging, those are just simply things that you just don't normally see in an AMS. So it allows us to offer all those extended features. And so I love the fact that your team is reimagining, those solutions. What kind of timeline are we looking at? Are things coming along in short order? Or what's the thoughts on that?
Yeah, so right now we're really focusing in on our registration offering, and I'm going to touch on that because that really speaks to what you were talking about. Like AMSs all have a registration solution, and at the same time, we know that it can range from 40 to 60%, depending on the size of an organization, that their annual revenue is directed from in and around an event specific um, experience. So we know it's critical for them. And so some of those really large events have unique pathways. There's a large number of non-members or additional sponsors that aren't typically inside an AMS in a day-to-day experience. And so you need to make sure you're designing a tailored event solution for them, which is when they start to step out of their AMS event registration offerings, right? They go to these other solutions. And so we're really being mindful of that. We've always had this, and originally it was Expo Logic. Now we are Momentive Event Management Software, and that is what we're able to kind of go to market with. And one of those offerings is the badge. And we've done this badging work now probably in that solution space going on 15, 20 years. So it's been a product that is really prevalent in the market. And what oftentimes people think, and early on we used to joke, it's how hard is it? It's just a badge. Well, the badge is one of the most highly visible things that you have on site. It is used to manage your security. It's used to manage access permission to a variety of areas. And so it is a very key component, even from a logistical aspect, but as well as the marketing. Everybody sees the badge. And so having a professional quality badge does very much impact how people are interacting on site, the ease with which people travel throughout your event, whether they're getting on buses and shuttles from the airport or from the hotels. So it is very critical. We want to make sure that that experience is as highly professional as possible aesthetically. So, and we're going to continue to make improvements in those areas just to modernize as much as we can, because often that badge leads to your exhibitors' experience and their ability to gain leads and capture good quality sales leads and prospects. And they're all connected. And it comes back to being able to provide and build an ecosystem where, whether it's registration and having a tailored registration experience, or these high quality professional badges that lead into improved experiences on site, that we're going to continue to invest and reimagine.
So if I was running a big event, is there anything that you would highly recommend that I be doing that maybe I haven't been doing before or could be doing better?
Yeah, that's pretty broad, right? Like there's a lot of things I think at a lot of events that it, and I'll kind of speak specifically to some of those registration areas, right? So if you're not utilizing additional registration offerings at satellite locations, I kind of call them that, certainly something to consider taking advantage of. Making sure that you're thinking about, how do I make sure that the badge experience when I walk in and I collect my credentials is quick, fast, easy. Really focusing on that, because that does tend to be the very first touch point. So before you can even go to that, welcome reception and gala, you need to go get your badge, right? And we want to make sure that that's a really fast experience, that there's no lines, you get people in and out. So that's really one of those areas where, for small organizations who are starting to try to grow their event, this is one of those areas where you can make a lot of headway in order to create a more professional experience for your attendees.
Well, that's fabulous feedback. And Jason, it's been really a pleasure having you on. You have probably more knowledge and experience in your little pinky than most of the rest of us do as it relates to events. So we just really appreciate you having you on our team. So thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me today. It's great having a conversation, Rob.